Hello everybody, my name is Garvin and I read things and jabber about them on the internet for your entertainment. Today we're continuing our month-long look at some of the works of science fiction author Philip K. Dick by looking at the 2003 film Paycheck. That film was chosen by my ever-wise patrons and you can join their ranks by clicking the link below. A little as $1 a month gets you a vote on upcoming content. If you'd rather leave a one-time donation, there's also a Ko-fi link down there. Now, I will be giving this film two separate ratings. One is a standalone film, and the other has an adaptation of the written story that I discussed last week. So, let's get to it, but fair warning, there will be spoilers on this 20-year-old movie? Wow, I'm getting old. Well, better get to this before I wake up in a retirement home, right, folks? Paycheck was optioned by Caravan Pictures back in 1996. Originally, Brett Ratner, the director of films like Rush Hour, Red Dragon, X-Men The Last Stand, and others, was in talks, but they went with John Woo to direct instead. Matt Damon was offered the role of Michael Jennings, but he declined, and it went to Ben Affleck. The film also has a number of actors whose work I honestly enjoy, like Aaron Eckhart, who plays our villain. Paul Giamatti has Shorty, who is Jennings' memory wiper and only friend, apparently. We also have Uma Thurman as the Hollywood-mandated love interest. I just want to make clear that's no offense meant to Uma Thurman, who is a fine actress. It's just, having watched it, this film is a bit formulaic. Now, it was released in December of 2003, and in all honesty, when it came out, I completely missed this film. I was otherwise engaged in the year 2003, so this is really my first experience with this film. I will say, though, it was a lot easier to find a copy of this film than Radio Free Albemuth. Moving on, though. As I mentioned, the film stars Ben Affleck as Michael Jennings, who works as a somewhat shady reverse engineer. That's someone who's hired by corporations to take examples of their competitors' technology, break it down, and build them their own version that they can take to market. In the opening sequence, he's shown as taking a computer monitor that creates a 3D image that projects from the screen and reverse engineering it into a full holographic display. So the film at least does a good job of establishing that he's a good engineer right out of the gate. Of course, to give everyone deniability, he gets his memory wiped of the entire time he's working for these corporations, who of course pay him under the table with large sums of money for the privilege. The memory wipe is done by using some sort of heat technology to destroy the parts of his brain that hold the memories, which seems really dangerous to me. I mean, yes, he's getting hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they're literally burning out the neurons in his brains. That can't have anything but terrible consequences down the line. This is never brought up in the film. This is all just me talking here. But what is brought up is the fact that this procedure can kill you by literally cooking your brain. So I'm not sure Jennings is being paid enough for this shit. Jennings is then hired by our villain to work on some super tech for 3 years. Now, this is kind of a sticking point because the brain cooking memory wipe technology can almost kill you just, destroying a couple months. But our villain has a solution for this, a new memory wipe procedure that is primarily chemical in nature. They basically inject you with an isotope, and when they want to wipe your memory, they inject you with a second isotope, and everything in between those two injections goes poof. The film then jumps ahead 3 years, so we are left in the dark along with Affleck's character, and we have to piece together everything from clues that he left himself. So, unlike the book where he's only left 7 items, the film gives us 20. But, like in the book, he traded in his paycheck, which was a huge amount of money, for these items to make sure that he paid attention. Now, unlike the book where the U.S. is a police state, we're given a more modern U.S., but that doesn't stop the FBI from just grabbing him out of his apartment and dragging him into an interrogation room. They do this because Jennings' lab partner happened to be a government scientist who went rogue and has since come down with a case of death. And this case of death looks like murder. And Jennings is the primary suspect. In the book, the memory wipe technology is a secret that the government's unaware of. In the movie, the FBI is not only well aware of memory wiping technology, but has their own top secret technology that can extract and reconstruct these memories. Which is interesting to me because that implies that these memories aren't really fully destroyed, which does kind of work with what I understand of how memories work in your brain. Also, I do kind of like that the FBI aren't complete idiots in this movie. They're pretty sure just from the jump that Jennings hasn't actually killed anybody, but he's also the only lead they have in their investigation, and they suspect his boss, which means they think there might be clues in Jennings' memories. Now, because they're trying to pull out 3 years' worth, the extraction machine almost kills Jennings by overheating him, but he's able to use the items he left himself to escape, and this sends us into the main plot. Jennings quickly finds out that he not only has to duck the FBI, but corporate goons sent by his old boss to kill him. With the aid of Shorty and Uma Thurman's character Rachel, she's a doctor of biology that worked at the same company, and they got into a romantic relationship with each other that he has inconveniently wiped his memories of. But he's able to figure out that what he did was build a machine that could see into the future that they didn't name, so I have dubbed the Fate Viewer 3000. So the Fate Viewer 3000's explanation is so science does not work that way, but I'm just going to let it pass. He also quickly realizes that seeing into the future traps you, and this version of technological clairvoyance works a lot like Greek prophecy, where trying to avoid the prediction often causes it to happen. Jennings, however, manages to avoid the death originally predicted by the Fate Viewer 3000, but only by using the machine a lot to game out his future plans. That said, this is not the first time I've seen this, not just in Greek mythology, but, for example, also in Dune, the idea that being able to see the future entraps you into carrying out that future. It's an interesting idea, and frankly, the plot tells us that's not ironclad, because otherwise our plucky protagonist would have been doomed to cook alive in the FBI interrogation room. That said, he sees the end of civilization as a result of using this machine, by which I mean the government trying to avoid the various dooms and calamities they see through the Fate Viewer 3000 end up bringing them about and causing the end of the world. So he decides what needs to happen is the Fate Viewer 3000 needs to be destroyed, and the entire lab needs to be burnt down because no one has thought to copy his notes or make sure that there was anyone else besides him who knew how to build this thing. Which seems a glaring oversight to me, but maybe I'm overthinking this. You know what? No, I'm going to go ahead and go into this. I don't understand the villain's plans here at all. He has decided that Jennings needs to die, which, first off, dude, he's the only one who knew how to build the damn thing, and you wiped his memory? At least have him explain his notes to someone else first. I mean, what if it breaks? Oh, wait, he sabotaged the Fate Viewer 3000, and no one else can fix it. Smooth move, dude. Also, why would you leave his death up to the FBI when you know the man has access to a machine that can see the future? The bad guys are simply being too clever for their own good here. I mean, given that Jennings decides to destroy the Fate Viewer 3000 because use of it will destroy civilization, I can see why you feel you can't convert him, but in this situation, I would at least try to talk to him. Something simple like, hey buddy, you seem freaked out. Did the Fate Viewer 3000 show you something bad? Are we getting mushroom clouded? Can we game this out a bit and find a way for everyone to win? We have a machine that can see the future. Let's find a way to use it where we don't explode. Although, I'll admit, if I created the Fate Viewer 3000, I wouldn't tell anybody. Because if everyone knows you can see the future, suddenly everyone is after you. Now, this being your standard Hollywood action movie, Jennings does manage to shake everyone by destroying the machine, destroying the lab, faking his death, with a bit of indirect help from the FBI agents, and rides off into the sunset with the girl. The movie itself, despite the interesting high concept, is honestly just a straightforward action film. John Woo gives us some really good action pieces, mostly chase sequences here, although there are some straight-up firefights and a few fight sequences I enjoyed, and others that just made me giggle. I did enjoy the extended chase sequence with our hero and Uma Thurman on a motorcycle through the street into a construction yard, for example. That was fun to watch. Although I do have to note that Jennings is shockingly good at hand-to-hand violence for someone who spends his day in a lab hunched over bits of machinery. I know a couple of engineers in real life, and they're good guys, but I would not bring them into a fistfight against armed and armored corporate leg breakers or an FBI tactical team. If you're listening, guys, I'm sorry to say that, but you know it's true. So how am I going to rate this film? As a standalone, it's okay. I mean, you'll notice I haven't said anything about the characterization, the dialogue, or the plot, and that's because there's not much to say. None of that stuff is terrible, but it's not good either. It's very formulaic. It's very, you've seen this movie before. The film comes in at under 2 hours. I don't feel like I was robbed of that time, but this isn't a great film. It's okay popcorn film, basically. And if you want to see some fun action, and you want to see a performance that won Ben Affleck his third Razzie, the other two were for Gigi and Daredevil, then this is your movie. For the record, he earned those Razzies, by the way. Compared to real stinkers I've watched, like the Total Recall remake, that left me wanting vengeance against the entire world for allowing this to exist, but I'm going to let it go. This film is not terrible. That said, I'm never going to feel the need to watch it again. Ever. So, I'm going to give it a C. It's not terrible. It had fun moments, but it's mediocre. It is mediocre. As an adaptation, well, they changed about everything, including who the villains were, added a bunch of characters, which adding Shorty and Rachel were a good move. I particularly liked the inclusion of Shorty. He's a great character that tragically was not given enough screen time, and Uma Thurman did a good job with the admittedly lukewarm material she was given. But in the end, considering the massive change, I have to give this a D grade as an adaptation, since all that remains of the original story is the memory wipe and the ability to see through time, along with a couple of names. So, it's not a good adaptation. So, sadly, that means we're bringing this year's Dick Month to a close with a rather mediocre action movie, but I hope you found this video informative, or at least entertaining. If so, please leave a like or comment, or consider subscribing. All of those help me in my eternal struggle against the dread Lord algorithm. Terror be on his name. Thank you for watching, and a special thanks to Big Steve, my biggest supporter. My next video is going to have me return to mythology. When I did my Atlantis series last summer, a number of viewers asked me to take a look at mermaids, since, strangely enough, mermaids are not part of the Atlantis story until DC Comics brings them in through Aquaman. So, our next couple of videos is going to be me taking a dive, if you will, into the folklore and mythology of mermaids. I hope you'll join me, and until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and of course, keep reading!